Welcome to Tune In YRDSB. May is Museum Month, and we're excited to share a special two-part series featuring the YRDSB Museum and Archives. Some of our listeners may not know that York Region District School Board has its very own museum. Located in a historic one-room schoolhouse in Markham, the museum preserves the history of public education in our region and offers engaging learning experiences for YRDSB students. In today's episode, we'll learn more about the work of the museum and hear directly from some grade 3 students as they share highlights from their recent visit. Let's meet our hosts now.
Hi, I'm Christina Blake. I'm the education programmer here at the YRDSB Museum and Archives.
Hi, I'm Rebekah Mitchell, and I'm the curator at the YRDSB Museum and Archives, and we are live on location at the Heritage Schoolhouse. It's May, and May is Museum Month, and it's a great time for people to be just thinking about museums in our spaces and in our communities and the importance of them and why we go to museums and just the significance around holding on to our community memories and making sure that we preserve them. And so I think May is a great month to just remember that museums are an important part of our community fabric, and visiting them is really a great way to connect with family and connect with friends. And yeah, here at our museum, we're excited to have kiddos here like almost every day during the school week.
Thank you, Rebekah and Christina, for that introduction to the museum. Today, we're lucky to be recording live on location in this beautiful one-room schoolhouse as grade 3 students from Kettle Lakes Public School arrive for their very first visit to the museum. Let's hear a little bit more about the kinds of learning experiences waiting for the students when they step inside.
So, Christina, I'm the curator here, but you're the education programmer. So if a kiddo and their class are going to come to the museum, what's it like?
So we are based in a one-room historic schoolhouse that was built in 1872 in Buttonville, Ontario, which is in the city of Markham. And so our schoolhouse has been restored to look like it did approximately in the late 1890s. So it's set up like a classroom and has a lovely wood stove in the middle to give us that feel of the past with, the typical maps and flags and a nice school clock on the wall. And we have about 30 odd desks from the 1890s that students are able to sit in and experience slate work and just have a in-depth experience in what it was like to go to school here in what we now call York Region in the mid 1800s.
And I think it's really neat too, because now we've been around since 1992, and now we have staff that are coming here that remember coming as kids, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that that's like really fun to hear those stories, because they walk into the room and they're like, oh my goodness, I'm stepping back into like my childhood.
Yeah, and I think one-room schoolhouses across Ontario are still very prominent, either in museum form or they've been restored into Montessori schools or into homes. And so school is a really universal connection that people can make. And I think that even if you're brand new to York Region, there are still many connections that parents, when they enter the room, make if they've come from another country. Those connections are really important, I think, to home and place and making people feel welcome in a space they've never been in before. So today we have a grade 3 class coming from Kettle Lakes Public School. They're coming with their teacher, Miss Cancelli. And they've not been here before, and Miss Cancelli's not been here before either. So it'll be really interesting to see and hear what the students have as their first impressions of the space. And they'll be introduced to the exterior of the schoolhouse when they arrive and brought inside to the one-room schoolhouse to explore and inquire and ask lots and lots of questions about everything they see and wonder. And today really is about critical thinking and making connections to things that they already know and using their funds of knowledge to pull out connections that they can make to themselves So that's what's really nice about this space, because it does look like a classroom that, even though it's old, they can still recognize it as one. And those connections really help students feel like they have something to say, right? And we have photographs on the wall from pretty much between the late 1890s and the 1970s. And those photographs show kind of a progression of how this schoolhouse has changed over time. And really, continuity and change is a big theme that we talk about with the grade 3s. It's an easy one to access. It's one of the historical thinking concepts that students start learning about as young as grade 1. And this is really helping them foster their curiosity and their critical thinking skills, so that they can ask pertinent questions that they can then think more about, ask each other instead of, just getting an answer. It's about leading them through the inquiry process. When they come here, sometimes we do an introduction to what a museum is, and sometimes the students say, well, you're not allowed to touch anything in museums. A student said that recently to me, a grade 3. And I'm like, right, but today you get to touch and feel and sit in these desks and really experience the artifacts and basically, put yourself in someone else's shoes a little bit. But this program all of our programs are inquiry-based and really about students asking really good questions.
Yeah, and I think that when we talk about the programs that we offer, and this is just some of them, right? We have the grade 3 that is here at the Heritage Schoolhouse. We have a grade 7-8 program that we also offer, and the grade 10. Christina, you want to talk a little bit about the grade 7-8?
Sure. The grade 7-8 program is also located at the Heritage Schoolhouse, and students really dive into the inquiry process a little bit more. So we're trying to build on their skills of critical thinking and using the historical thinking concepts, so that when they get to grade 10, they've had that experience of the inquiry process. So they have a little bit more hands-on learning than the grade 3 students, and I do make them wear gloves because it's just fun. So they have their white gloves. They rotate through 4 stations around the museum, and they get to touch the artifacts and handle them and ask each other questions. And each station has a thinking routine that they are to engage with. And they participate very well in this. It's been really nice to see. I've kind of changed things up over the last 2 years, and they really love it. And I try and make it as local as possible. So we do have, schools from across York Region, but if I have a school from Stouffville, then some of my prompting questions are like, how would Stouffville look in 50 years, right? What places and spaces in your community are important to you? So making sure that I'm hearing their voices as well, and we don't just talk at them. We really engage with the learner and their likes and interests, and I try and bring that into all of my programming. We also do ad hoc outreach programs for really grades K to 12, and we sometimes end up at schools for a whole day doing inquiry and seeing. We've literally been to schools where we see every kiddo in the school over the course of the day with a program, say like Standing in the Doorway, our outreach exhibit that is available to schools to borrow. And then we partner with teachers who are, keen and eager to do inquiry-based learning in their schools. So we've had a great partnership with certain schools across the board over the last few years, where we engage with mostly intermediate students in programming that ties with the history curriculum.
Yeah, and again, just making sure that some of the kids that maybe have never had that opportunity to visit a museum get an opportunity to engage with a museum in their own space.
Let's join the grade 3 students and their teacher now to hear about their time at the museum, what caught their attention, what they enjoyed most, and the questions they're still thinking about.
Welcome to the Heritage Schoolhouse.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is your first time here as a teacher, yes?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. So I'd love to know your first impressions and also why you think it's important to bring your grade 3 students here to have some experiential hands-on learning.
Okay, so my first initial reaction is it's quite old. Things were done very differently. And I think that that's a valuable experience for the kids to see that. Like, we got a chance to speak with them. They don't know what it was like back then. So to kind of take them back and have this valuable, like, in-person experience where they got to touch and feel and explore artifacts, I think is incredible. I feel like this is a great introduction, like you said, to our social studies unit, because it's just, now we have a lot of things to talk about. Right? We have such a good baseline for the kids. Do you remember when we went to the schoolhouse and we saw the desks, how it was slanted and all that stuff, right? Like the pictures that seemed to stand out for them the most, where the pictures and how things were different. They're so used to technology where a picture is quick. Whereas when they saw that in real time, it was like, wow, okay. They're not smiling, and you explaining it to them, I think stood out for them. So yeah, I think this is a great place to start when we're getting ready for our social studies unit, so that they have we can yield those questions after.
Yeah, the spark of inquiry, right, is what we're really trying to instill in the students when they come here, so that they can reference back to things that they experienced here, and seeing, parts of the community of York Region, what we now call York Region, is like way different than what they know now. And even at the grade 3 level, like, they're very good at asking questions.
Yes, this group is very good. Yeah. And they even like took it one step further and was like, can you take a picture of this artifact? Because I want to explore it more in class. So I have a lot of pictures now of artifacts that we're going to be looking at when we
Excellent.
go back. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's a good place to like start the conversation, and then we can continue it.
Yeah, and that's really
Back in
like
class.
the provocation of anything in here can lead to more questions, and could lead to a wonder wall, could lead to all of these, questions that can basically be built on to do a whole inquiry project if you really wanted to with the students. They could also just continually throughout the unit have their questions up on sticky notes, or they could have a vocabulary wall started. So lots of entry points to different aspects of the curriculum as well with literacy. And we'll do a bit of math this afternoon.
Yeah, I love how hands-on everything is, so that they actually are like getting to do it like the way it was back then, right? I think it's a wonderful, wonderful experience for them.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, grade 3s. Miss Blake wants to know, what was your first impression when you came to the one-room schoolhouse today? What was the first thing you maybe noticed?
It looked way different than our school. The British flag. I was very interested in the clothes over there.
I know. So different, huh?
Like, the pictures are really cool.
Is there anything specifically about any of those things that you had maybe more questions about that we haven't answered yet, that Miss Blake could answer this afternoon?
Why there's like a teapot?
Yeah. Okay, there's a teapot on the stove. Mm-hmm. I talked a little bit about that this morning, that maybe the teacher would make hot cocoa for the class. What about the clothes that you have questions about, Lily?
They don't have much color.
They're not as bright as what we're used to, right? Mm-hmm.
And like the pictures, like now the cameras here are colorful, and then they weren't.
Right, we only have black and white film back then. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then if there was an artifact in the classroom that you maybe picked out when you were walking around at first, that you had questions about, what artifact would that be, and why did it stand out to you?
The clock.
What about the clock kind of got your attention?
Like it's kind of like old, like they have that, like, what's it called?
Pendulum?
Yeah. Never seen it.
But you knew it was a clock, right? Yeah, because you use your own funds of knowledge to know that you've seen the face of a clock before, but the pendulum part you said you'd never seen. Very cool.
The map.
The map, which one? There's a couple maps.
The map over there.
Ah, yes. It's the Champlain map. So that's a very old map and shows the area that we now call Ontario.
And they used the bucket there to wash their hands and drink water.
Yes, there was no running water in the schoolhouse. So that's a great observation.
The clothes look really different.
Yes, we have two mannequins with clothing from about 1900 on there.
How when instead of taking a picture inside, they would take it outside because of the technology.
The technology for the photography was way different, right? So we have black and white photographs because we didn't have color film yet. And it took a very long time to take pictures. So what did you notice in that picture of the kids?
I noticed that they were really serious.
Yeah. So none of them are smiling, right? And it wasn't because they weren't happy. It was because of the technology at the time.
Also, we spot that when we go to the washroom, we would usually have the sinks, but now the washroom's outside, and in the sink it would be a little table with a mirror, a towel, and a cup if you wanted water.
Yeah, so we have a wash stand, and you'd have to use the washroom outside. Can you imagine doing that in the middle of really cold winter? Right? How would that make you feel to have to go outside, put your boots on? How would that feel?
It would take a while just to go. It depends on how high the snow is.
This is true.
And if you're cold, I don't think you could go to the washroom while you're freezing. The paper was it looked darker back in the days, but now it's all white and clean.
Right. So over time, paper can turn different colors due to sunlight, due to acid that comes out of the paper, right? So it changes over time. Why do you think it's important to visit a museum? Even if it wasn't this museum, if you've been to another museum, what's something important that you take away from going to visit any museum? Jamil.
You can learn from it. We can see stuff we probably haven't seen. Discover new things. Because we need to know how people have struggles in the past.
Oh, I love that. That's a great answer. Yeah. What about you, Cyrus?
And you learn about the history of Ontario and Canada.
Is it different from the way we live?
Yeah. So it's different, how we have seesaws here made out of plastic, and they're with wood.
Right? So we can think about how even playground equipment has advanced, right? So we can think about continuity and change, what's changed and what stayed the same over time. So we still have seesaws, but they're just made of different materials, right? Mm-hmm. And you guys knew what a seesaw was because you've maybe played with one before. So if you've been to a museum before, why do you think it's important to visit a museum? What have you seen at a museum that maybe stayed with you that you remember if you've been at a different museum before?
We can learn how people built in the past and how their clothing is, to learn about their clothing and how they lived.
And how they lived, yeah.
Yeah, we can think about the people that have been here before, right?
And what they ate.
Yeah, we can think about how we can get food from anywhere really in the world now, here in Ontario, right? Pretty much.
So they had to travel in one country, they have to travel to get food, and then now we don't have to travel to get food.
Right, so now we can just go down the street and go to a grocery store and get whatever pretty much we want, right? From all parts of the world. Where back then we can think about how this was rural and all kinds of farms around here. And really the students that went to this school would have really only eaten things that were grown locally on their farms. So they wouldn't even have ever eaten a banana before, right? Because they're from another country, grown somewhere else. So something we always see and maybe we eat every day, they would never have experienced.
So, like, would they have any beans?
Yes, they would have beans. Different types.
What kind of food would they have?
Yeah, we can think about what grows here in Ontario. We can grow lettuce and tomatoes, and we can grow carrots and root vegetables and potatoes, right? And then they would have had animals as well, right? Like we have beef and pork and chicken, right? They would have had eggs, milk. So what do you think is one thing that you're going to remember forever about coming here to the Heritage Schoolhouse? What do you think?
Cursive.
Learning cursive. Yeah, that's a good one, Jamil.
That we had such a fun time.
Excellent.
That the desks are comfortabler than the ones at school.
Yeah, they're very comfy. They're very ergonomic, right? Handmade.
That this schoolhouse is British. The land was British, like.
Was ruled by Great Britain at the time, right? So we have things in our classroom like our British flag and pictures of Queen Victoria, right? Because those students would have been under British rule at the time. And so we have God Save the Queen on the board. So those are things, right? Those are the colonial aspects of the time period that we were under, and our government was ruled by Britain, right? So a lot different than today.
We used rocks as in chalk, so we could write rock to rock.
Right.
And how instead of writing cursive on a paper and having a folder, they would use a knitted whiteboard eraser and then a ruler, and you're supposed to keep the ruler flat on your desk.
Right, so it's kind of like you had to make your own worksheet, right? And then practice your cursive, and they would have practiced every day.
Like, just think about the tasks that we do every day, right? Simple tasks that we do. Was it easy for them back then, or was it a little bit more challenging?
It was challenging. I kind of liked when the teacher explained the pictures, because I was interested in it. I liked when we explored the room.
So when you had free time to explore, I love that.
It was interesting that they used feathers with ink to write.
Yeah, if you come back in grade 8, you can write with pen and ink. I let you write with pen and ink, yeah.
It's also interesting that they have a piano.
Oh yeah, we haven't talked about the piano yet today. Why do you think they had a piano in their classroom?
Because there's only one classroom in here, and the piano must be for the music classes.
Exactly that, right? The teacher maybe would have played the national anthem, which at that time was God Save the Queen, the British national anthem. Right? They also would have had concerts here.
Concerts.
Yes, music concerts. Do you guys sometimes have like a seasonal concert at school?
We sure do.
All right, excellent.
Thank you for listening. We hope you'll join us for the second episode in this series, where we'll follow the museum team as they visit a secondary school and bring some of their artifacts on the road. In the meantime, you can learn more about this award-winning team on the board website at www.yrdsb.ca. Take a virtual peek inside the museum, explore some of the artifacts students mentioned today, or check out the online exhibits on the No. 2 Construction Battalion and lived histories and experiences of the Chinese community. Thank you for joining us. We'll hope to see you next time.